Last episode, we talked about the silence, where it comes from, how it builds, what gets covered, and why. Today, we are going to talk about what that silence actually does. Because silence is never just silence, it does something over time, quietly, to the person carrying it and to everything around them. Strength is genuinely a good thing. Most people would agree with that without an hesitation. The ability to stay steady when things fall apart, to keep showing up when everything in you wants to stop, to be reliable when the people around you need reliability. That is real and it matters. But here is where it gets complicated. When strength becomes the only acceptable version of yourself, it stops being a quality and starts being a trap. Think about what the actual looks like in a real life. You become the reliable one, the one who handles the difficult things, the one who does not panic, the one who keeps moving regardless of what is happening internally. And at first, that feels like maturity, like you have figured something out. But slowly, something shifts. When people only ever see a strong side, you start feeling responsible for protecting them from every other side. The scared side, the overwhelmed side, the side that genuinely does not know what the right answer is. So, you stop saying I'm scared. You stop saying I'm overwhelmed. You stop saying I do not know what to do next. Not because those feelings disappear, but because somewhere along the way you stopped feeling permitted to have them. The strength that once served you becomes the thing confines you. And the cost of that confinement is not always visible from the outside. Most of it happens internally, gradually. When you stop asking for help, the people you're carrying rarely disappears. It just becomes heavier. A financial worry that was never spoken becomes chronic stress that lives somewhere in your body, even on the good days. A disappointment that was never processed becomes a quiet resentment that colors things slowly. Loneliness that was never admitted becomes an isolation so familiar you stop recognizing it as loneliness at all. Of course, grief that was never given space becomes a numbness that eventually replaces it. And perhaps the most dangerous thing that happens is this: carrying everything alone starts to feel normal. You forget that asking for support was ever an option. You stop remembering what it felt like before the weight arrived. And you keep going because keeping going is the only language still available to you. What does a person actually carry that the people around them never see? People see responsibilities, the job, the commitments, the showing up every day. Very few people see what lives underneath all of that. The fear of failing the people who are depending on you, the pressure of being the one everyone is counting on too, the feeling that one significant mistake could undo years of quiet effort, the guilt of not being present enough with family, and simultaneously the guilt of stepping away from work to be with family. These constant mental calculations that run in the background of every single day, the backup plans, the contingency plans, the things that surface at 2 in the morning when everyone else goes quiet. Many people carry entire conversations in their heads that nobody else ever have. Am I doing enough? Will the people I love be okay? Happens if I cannot sustain this? Why do I still feel this way, even after working so hard for everything I have? The world sees the outcome. The person lives with everything that produced it. Here is something worth being clear about: silence does not make emotions smaller, it changes their shape. Sadness becomes anger, fear becomes a compulsive need to control the things around you, loneliness becomes a gradual withdrawal from the people you actually care about most. Disappointment becomes a cynicism that starts coloring how you see everything. Exhaustion becomes an irritability you cannot always explain even to yourself. The emotions does not leave, it just becomes something else entirely. And because it changes shape, the person carrying it sometimes loses track of what it originally was. They think they have an anger problem, a patience problem, a motivational problem, when actually underneath all of that there is a grief that was never given a name, or a fear that was never spoken out loud, or a loneliness that was never admitted to anyone, including themselves. A lot of people imagine that finally opening up is some dramatic moment, a breakdown, a turning point that announces itself clearly. Usually, it is nothing like that. Usually, it starts with something much smaller, a single sentence said to one person in one moment: I'm struggling, I'm tired, I'm not okay, I do not know what to do. And the thing that most people discover when they finally say those words honestly is generally surprising. The world does not end. The people who truly care do not disappear. The problem does not resolve overnight, but it becomes something that can be shared. And shared weight feels different from weight carried entirely alone. It does not vanish, but it no longer belongs only to you, and that difference is surprisingly significant. I want to close with something about what strength actually means, because I think the version most people were handled is incomplete. Real strength is not carrying everything alone indefinitely. Real strength is knowing what genuinely belongs on your shoulder and what does not. Knowing when to lead and when to ask for direction. Knowing when to protect the people around you and when to allow them the chance to show up for you. Because eventually every person reaches a point where the question stops being how much I can carry and becomes something more honest. How long can I carry this alone? For a lot of people, that is the question they have been avoiding for a very long time, because answering it honestly requires admitting that there is a limit, and they were never sure they were allowed to have one. You are. This is Redis Covered. Stay uncovered, accept